Well, I've got some significant news for you today. Probably you won't hear it in the mainstream media, but I'll tell you. Do you remember the furore around the Algerian boxer at the recent Olympics in Paris? Algerian boxer Amain Khalif was accused of being a male. The International Olympic Committee said nothing to see here. But now we find out that there were some things to see, including testicles, a micropenis, and the absence of a uterus. That would make them a him, wouldn't it? Let's check it out. So this was our episode of McBLOG from the 2nd of August this year, right in the middle of the Paris Olympics. So everyone awoke this morning to these images and the accompanying media reports, as Daily Wire reports, after Italian boxer Angelina Carini was powerfully punched twice by an Algerian boxer in the Paris Olympics who had previously been barred from fighting women. She stopped her about 46 seconds and broke down in tears, saying she had never been hit so hard. Now, Carini is 25, was fighting Algerian Amain Khalif, who was disqualified from the Women's World Championship in 2023 after failing testosterone and gender eligibility tests. The International Amateur Boxing president, Umar Kremlev, asserted that DNA tests had proved they had XY chromosomes and were thus excluded. Now, Italian Carini, she said, "I'm heartbroken. I went to the ring to honour my father. I was told a lot of times that I was a warrior, but I preferred to stop in this bout for my health. I had never felt a punch like this. I got into the ring to fight. I didn't give up, but one punch hurt too much, and so I said enough." Now, the Olympics Committee came out with this statement. They said, "Every person has the right to practice sport without discrimination." But does a woman have the right to practice sport only against other women? All athletes participating in the boxing tournament of the Olympic Games Paris 2024 comply with the competition's eligibility and entry regulations, as well as all applicable medical regulations set by Paris 2024 Boxing Unit. Here's all the applicable rules. As with previous Olympic boxing competitions, the gender and age of the athletes are based on their passport. Well, there's the first problem. You can have X on some passports, so which division are they in? And based on birth certificates in New Zealand, which are now nonsensical, you can identify as whatever you want, irrespective of chromosomes and biology. It's simply based on how you identify. But the birth certificate then becomes the basis of the passport. Yeah, so that was from August. Well, this week, the whole debacle was blown wide open. But the media, including the New Zealand media, have buried it. But we won't. Now, the one report I did see was on 7 News in Australia with an article entitled "Olympic gold medalist Amain Khalif takes legal action over reports allegedly detailing leaked medical records." So let's go to the report from the website Redux, which hosts feminist news and opinion, and broke the original story during the Olympics. And the article is entitled "Algerian boxer Amain Khalif has XY chromosomes and testicles. French Algerian medical report admits." And this is what it says. "A shocking new development has emerged in the case of Algerian boxer Amain Khalif after a French journalist reportedly gained access to a damning medical report revealing Khalif had testicles. The news comes months after Khalif seized a gold medal in women's boxing at the Paris Olympics. The report was drafted in June 2023, a collaboration between Kremlin Bicêtre Hospital in Paris, France, and the Mohamed Lamine Debani Hospital in Algiers, Algeria. Hopefully I'm getting all that pronunciation right. Drafted by expert endocrinologists Soumaya Fadala and Jacques Young, the report reveals that Khalif is impacted by 5-alpha reductase deficiency, a disorder of sexual development that is only found in biological males. At the end of October, French journalist Dafar Ait Aoudia, I hope I said that right as well, obtained a copy of a thorough physical examination that was conducted on Khalif in order to verify the presence of a disorder of sexual development. Now, before we go to the source report from the French journalist who has done some superb investigative work on this, there's a key paragraph in this Redux report, and it says this: "This report coincides with an earlier admission by the Algerian boxer Khalif's coach that the Algerian boxer had been subjected to an assessment at the Kremlin-Bicêtre Hospital after being disqualified from women's boxing by the International Boxing Association." That was in March of 2023. Now, the IBA was accused of being a Russian group who didn't know what they were doing, and so the International Olympic Committee ignored them. And Redux was the first outlet to break the news of Khalif's participation in the women's boxing, raising alarm bells due to his previous disqualification from women's boxing by the International Boxing Association. Of course, we had the firestorm of controversy. The IBA came out in opposition to the International Olympic Committee's decision to allow a biological male to box against women in Paris. And during a press conference in August, the International Boxing Association repeatedly confirmed that Khalif had failed multiple chromosomal tests, but was barred from releasing the results of these tests by the Algerian Olympic Committee. Well, perhaps we now know why. So let's have a look at the investigative reporter's article, and it's entitled "Emain Khalif, Neither Ovaries Nor Uterus, But Testicles." And let me just read a few key paragraphs. "She was born a girl, grew up a girl, and lived a girl." This is the little refrain that the entourage of Emain Khalif, the Algerian boxer who has been making headlines since the Paris Olympics, keeps telling us. From the Algerian Boxing Federation to the International Olympic Committee, it is still inconceivable that anyone could doubt her sexual gender. But in their report submitted in June 2023, the two doctors, Young and Fadala, point out, without beating around the bush, Emain Khalif's pathology and alpha-5 reductase type 2 deficiency, a genetic anomaly which leads to metabolic dysfunction in testosterone and, oh boy, I hope I get this right, dehydroandrosterone. This enzymatic abnormality mainly affects boys, never girls, according to the specialists they interviewed, preventing their sexual organs from developing. So at birth, male babies are presented with a blind vaginal pouch, and in the absence of a good diagnosis, they are often assigned a female sexual identity. But in adolescence, these girls begin to see signs of masculinization, such as small body hairs, muscle mass, or an absence of breasts and periods. Most of the time, a more in-depth clinical examination confirms the diagnosis with the presence of gonads, testicles in their abdomen, a rudimentary prostate, as well as the absence of a uterus and ovaries on pelvic ultrasound. Now, this Professor Young subjected Khalif to a battery of tests. Remember, the coach admitted that it happened. Results: the pelvic MRI shows an absence of a uterus, the presence of gonads in the inguinal canals, so that's testicles in her abdomen, a blind vagina, and a micropenis in the form of clitoral hypertrophy. I hope that's right. I hope no medical people are listening. The ACGH, which is the Array Comparative Genomic Hybridization analyses show that she carries the 46XY karyotype and confirms the male formula without highlighting a significant genomic imbalance. Okay, now to the medical people watching, I've totally butchered all of that, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. Here's the key paragraph. The hormonal exploration reveals a male type testosterone level of 14.7. Remember that figure, 14.7. while the female gender does not exceed the maximum level of 3. In short, Imane Khelif is a man in a woman's shell, or a woman in a man's shell, in any case, not a normal girl. And just finally, further down the report, it says, the medical file says, and it reminds us, Imane Khelif, although she lives fully as a woman, must undergo a sexual transition with surgical correction, which is to remove her gonads, and hormonal therapy based on a monthly injection of desadafil, is that how you say it, to reduce her testosterone level. Wow, well that is all very revealing, isn't it? So apart from most of the media burying this story, except for a few including Sky News, The Telegraph in the UK, and the New York Post, there was a lot of reaction, but you won't have seen it. For example, Libs of TikTok said Redux Mag obtained a French medical report of Imane Khelif. It shows he has XY chromosomes, male testosterone levels, testicles, and a micropenis. He stole a woman's medal after beating up multiple women. Leftists in the media defended him. Democrats hate women. Piers Morgan tweeted about his column for the New York Post entitled "Why the IOC's Shameful Worship at the Altar of Trans Virtue Signalling Will Get Women Killed." And, you know, he says, those of us who decried the unfair advantage Imane Khelif had at the Paris Olympics have been proven right after a leaked medical report. In fact, there was a couple of good paragraphs just in his article in the New York Post and on Sky News, and it says this: if something walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and fights like a duck, it's probably a duck. Anyone who watched the sickening, heart-rending farce of Khelif beating up on Italy's Angela Carini back in August knew we weren't watching a woman. And so did Carini, which is why she quit the bout after just 40 seconds and later wept in front of the cameras as she revealed that she'd never been hit that hard and was in such pain from Khelif's fists that she feared for her life if she carried on. The crowd knew it too because they booed. We were all instantly branded transphobic and horribly abused by the trans lobby for daring to suggest Khelif was anything but a natural-born woman. But today, we know he's not a woman, and we were right. Any confusion about Khelif's biology was clarified by this report a full year before the Paris Olympics. And the IOC knew it. So why did they permit Khelif to compete against and beat, in every sense, women? The answer is cowardice. It was terrified of offending the woke mob who viciously mobilise against anyone who dares to stand up against this transgender athlete nonsense. Indeed, such was its fear that the IOC hasn't submitted athletes to chromosomal testing since 1999. And its only requirement for participation at the Paris Olympics in women's boxing was to have a female sex marker on legal documents. In other words, you just say you're a woman on a form and bingo, you're fighting against women, even if, like Khelif, you're a man. The United Nations recently revealed that a staggering 900 medals have been robbed from women by trans athletes around the world in 29 different sports. This is a disgusting, systematic global abuse of women's rights. Yeah, I bet you didn't hear about that report either, because the media didn't report that one either. Who else commented on it? This one, Oliver Brown, who is the chief sports writer for the UK Telegraph, said, exclusive IBA chief executive Chris Roberts issues a staunch defence of the test results indicating that Imane Khelif is genetically male. In my opinion, the IOC's Thomas Bach has taken 2 gold medals away from the other 2 finalists. He has a lot to answer for. Riley Gaines, a top US swimmer known for campaigning against the participation of trans women in women's sports because she had to share a changing room with a biological dude, Leah Thomas. She said this: remember the man who won an Olympic gold medal in women's boxing? His medical reports show he has XY chromosomes, male testosterone levels, testicles, and a micropenis. But that never mattered. They believed that words and feelings make you woman, not biology. Andy No, who's a New York Times best-selling journalist and senior editor of the Post-Millennial, said, leaked medical report belonging to Algerian boxer who controversially competed against women at the Paris Olympics and won gold allegedly shows Imane Khalif is biologically male with the developmental disorder. And Olympian and women's rights campaigner Sharon Davies was on GB News saying, I think this is criminal negligence. It is an outrageous situation that we are in. Now, as I said the first time we discussed this, when ideology overrides biology, women get hurt. It's ironic that DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, is harming women. That's because men and women are different. And don't argue with me, argue with biology. Now look, I understand. Some people will say, why should Imane Khalif's private information be open and, shown to the world? Because my argument is he could simply do away with this whole debate by simply releasing the medical records and proving that he is a woman. But he hasn't, and he won't. And that actually says everything. And you may say, well, medical records, why does he have to show his medical records? He's competing at the top level. He's boxing. He's hitting women in the face. So we need to confirm that he is supposedly a woman, as is being argued. Now, just one other thing. I bet most of you weren't aware of this new development in a story that the media couldn't get enough of at the time, berating us for misinformation, abuse, and injustice. Imane Khalif is not a man. Why are people saying that? And it's all about gender and women in sport. Well, given the media's obsession telling you that the boxer was female, will they now correct themselves? Now, just before recording this, I checked. The New Zealand media have buried this story. I personally think they don't want you to know about it. But now you do. So feel free to pass it on.